ಸೀತಾರಾಮ ಪಾಲಿಸೋಲಿದು ಹನುಮ ಪ್ರೇಮ ಪಾವನಾತ್ಮ ಸೀತಾರಾಮ ನೀಲಮೇಘ ಶ್ಯಾಮ ನಿಖಿಳ ಲೋಕ ಕ್ಷೇಮಧಾಮ ನೀಲಮೇಘ ಶ್ಯಾಮ ರಾಮ. ಸತ್ಯ ಸಂಕಲ್ಪಾನುಸಾರ ಚಿತ್ತ ಚಿನ್ಮಯಾತ್ಮ ಶ್ರೀಧರ ಸತ್ಯ ಸಂಕಲ್ಪಾನುಸಾರ ಚಿತ್ತ ಚಿನ್ಮಯಾತ್ಮ ಶ್ರೀಧರ ನಿತ್ಯ ಮುಕ್ತ ಪುಣ್ಯ ನಾಮ ಪ್ರತ್ಯಗಾತ್ಮ ಪೂರ್ಣ ಕಾಮ ನಿತ್ಯ ಮುಕ್ತ ಪುಣ್ಯ ನಾಮ ಪ್ರತ್ಯಗಾತ್ಮ ಪೂರ್ಣ ಕಾಮ ನೀಲಮೇಘ ಶ್ಯಾಮ ನಿಖಿಳ ಲೋಕ ಕ್ಷೇಮಧಾಮ ನೀಲಮೇಘ ಶ್ಯಾಮ ರಾಮ.
सहना भवतु सहनो भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति। ॐ यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति देवैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै। Together up to verse number 5. पार्थसारथिरूपेण श्रावयित्वा शुभां गिरं पार्थस्यार्तिहरो देवः कृपामूर्तिः स पातु नः। सञ्जय उवाच तं तथा कृपयाविष्टम् अश्रुपूर्णा विषीदन्तमिदं वाक्यम् उवाच मधुसूदनः। श्रीभगवानुवाच इदं शरीरं कौन्तेय एतत् यो वेति तं प्राहुः क्षेत्रज्ञ इति तद्विदः। क्षेत्रज्ञं चापि मां विद्धि सर्वक्षेत्रेषु भारत। क्षेत्रक्षेत्रज्ञयोर्ज्ञानं यत्तज्ज्ञानं मतं मम। अहमात्मा गुडाकेश सर्वभूताशयस्थितः। अहमादिश्च मध्यं च भूतानामन्त एव च। जातस्य हि ध्रुवो मृत्युः ध्रुवं जन्म मृतस्य च। तस्मादपरिहार्येऽर्थे न त्वं शोचितुमर्हसि। Seeing Arjuna immersed in grief and sorrow, Bhagwan starts the medication. And what is the medication? Self-knowledge is the medication. How is this knowledge given? This knowledge is given by making very clear the two aspects in this world. One is called the Kshetra, the other is called the Kshetrajña. Kshetra is the field, Kshetrajña, the knower of the field. In different texts, different terms may be used, but these two are always there. Sometimes Kshetra is called Maya, then Kshetrajña is called Brahman. Sometimes Kshetra is called Prakriti, then Kshetrajña is called Purusha. Sometimes Kshetra is called Anatma, then Kshetrajña will be called Atma. Sometimes Kshetra is called Drishya, then Kshetrajña will be called Drashta or Drik. What else? Sometimes Kshetra is called matter, Jada, then Kshetrajña will be called Chaitanya or consciousness. So these are all different terms, but finally it is the same thing. Kshetra, Kshetrajña. Bhagavan says this knowledge is a real knowledge. Why is it real knowledge? It puts an end to samsāra. It puts a full stop to birth, death cycle. And this is a real knowledge. So what is it that we have to know? The Kshetrajña, the knower in us, is none other than the Supreme Lord. We have to realize our oneness with that Lord in us. We have to know that we are the ultimate observer. So the moment we abide in that ultimate witness in us, that is what is called as moksha, mukti, liberation, nirvana, whatever you may call. So the goal of life is knowing the knower, and knowing the knower is nothing but abiding in the knower in us. This abidance should become an effortless process. It should become our nature. Abidance should become our nature. So then we say we are liberated. So how to live in this world with this knowledge? Bhagavan says, as far as the body is concerned, nobody can change. It will have to follow the laws of nature. This body has to decay and die. It's a choiceless situation. But this choiceless situation need not plunge us in sorrow. One of the reasons of Arjuna's sorrow was battle is going to happen and very many of us will die. This was one of the cause of sorrow. So here Bhagavan says, no doubt the body has to die, but the death of the body need not cause sorrow. Why? Sorrow is not because of the death of the body. Sorrow is because of the identification with the dying body. So if you can put an end to the identification, you are putting an end to the sorrow also. But Bhagavan, you have not mentioned the nature of the self. You said it is Kshetrajña, no doubt. You also said that Kshetrajña is me, no doubt. But what is the nature of the Kshetrajña? I would like to know its properties. Will you please define it? So now the next 3 verses are the definition of this. In fact, from verse number 2 till 12, it is Atmajnana. From verse number 2 till 12, first Atmajnana is given, self-knowledge is given. So now this self is being defined. Let us chant 6, page number 19. न जायते म्रियते वा कदाचित् नायं भूत्वा भविता वा न भूयः अजो नित्यः शाश्वतोऽयं पुराणः न हन्यते हन्यमाने शरीरे न जायते म्रियते वा कदाचित् नायं भूत्वा भविता वा न भूयः अजो नित्यः शाश्वतोऽयं पुराणः न हन्यते हन्यमाने. Yes. In Bhagavan Ramana's selection, maximum is from the 2nd chapter. Almost 8 verses, if I am not mistaken. 8 verses are from only 2nd chapter, majority. So now, here Bhagavan is comparing and contrasting Kshetra with Kshetrajña. What is the nature of this Kshetrajña? Na jayate, it is not born, unlike Kshetra, which is body. Na mriyate, it doesn't die like the body. Na ayam bhutva bhavitavana bhuyah. It is not that after coming into existence, it will become non-existent, which is like the body. What is the nature of body? It has come into existence. In the future, it will become non-existence. Na ayam. That is not his nature. It is not that after coming into existence, it will become non-existent in the future. Bhutva. Bhutva means after coming into existence. Bhavita, in the future. So there are two nas. Anyway, that is grammar part. Let us keep it aside. It is not that after being born, it will die. This is the meaning. Simple. Just like the body. Then what is his nature? Ajaha. Ajaha means unborn. Nityaha. So Ajaha means janmarahitaha, birthless. Nityaha means marana rahitaha, free from death. Shashvataha. Shashvataha here means kshaya rahitaha, freedom from decay. Puranaha. Puranaha here means vriddhi rahitaha. Vriddhi means growth. Now these are all the properties just opposite to the body. Body has birth, body has death, body has decay, body has growth also. Nahanyate hanyamane sharire. Even when the body is killed, this is not killed. Just the opposite nature of Kshetra is the property of Kshetrajña. Now this body, what is its nature? Tattvabodha definition. What are the Shadvikara? Asti, Jayate, Vardhate, Viparinamate, Apakshiyate, Vinashyate. Asti, it exists where? In the womb of the mother. This is how the body progresses. Asti, it exists in the womb of the mother. Jayate, it is born out of the womb. Third one, Vardhate, it grows. Viparinamate, it becomes mature. Apakshiyate, it decays. Finally, Vinashyati, dies. These are the six-fold modifications of the body. This definition is given in which text? Tattvabodha. Okay. Now here what he said is, this Atma has no such vikaras, modification. Now the question is, how will I know? Is there any proof? So in Bhagavad Gita the proof is given. It is your experience. Just pay attention to your experience. You will know that this Kshetrajña knower doesn't change. There is no modification. How does Bhagavan prove there? Dehinosmin yatha dehe kaumaram yauvanam jara tatha dehantara praptihi dhiras tatra namukhyate. This is again second chapter only. So what is the proof that this knower doesn't change? Constantly the body is changing. From childhood to youth, from youth to old age, all these changes are happening. Kaumaram, Yauvanam, Jara, all these changes are happening. And who is watching this change? We, the knower, the Kshetrajña is constantly observing these changes. Now, is the Kshetrajña changing? How do you know it is not changing? The very fact that I am able to remember the change of the past, the very fact that I am able to recollect my earlier, younger body, and the very fact that today I am experiencing my older body, what does it mean? The experiencer of the past young body is the same as the experiencer of the present old body. How can you say the experiencer is same? We can say experiencer is same because we are able to recollect our past. So the one who has experienced the past is the same as one who is experiencing the present. The very fact that we are able to recollect shows that I was there in the past, the very same I who is there in the present. You got the logic? If I of the past was different from I of the present, I will not be able to recollect the experiences of I of the past. Isn't it? Because that I is different, this I is different. How can this I recollect the experiences of that I? Are you able to get the logic? If these two I's are different, what are the I's? Past I and present I. If these two I's are different, definitely this I will not be able to recollect or remember the experiences of the past I. So therefore, since we are able to recollect it, it simply means the I of the past is the same as I of the present. Remember, when I am saying I, it is a pure I. Who is this pure I? The pure observer, the witness. Kaumaram yauvanam jara tatha deha antara prapti. If this much is true, that in this very life itself the bodies are changing, minds are changing, intellects are changing, constantly changes are happening and the observer of the change is the same. So if you extend this logic beyond death, when the body drops, the knower remains. When the new body is taken up, the very same knower remains. Extending the logic. So whatever changes are happening around the self is no way interfering with the existence of the self. So it simply means even when the body drops, the knower's existence continues. Is it becoming heavy? The I, the knower, it continues without being affected by the presence or absence of the body. So suppose a person is firmly rooted in this presence. So what will be his experience? Will he be bothered by the presence or absence of the physical body? No. Because the presence or absence of the physical body has nothing to do with the witness of the body. This is how you overcome sorrow. Sorrow is because of some relation with the perishable body. When the identification is complete with the witnessing consciousness, then the changes happening at the perishable level will not affect this consciousness, and thus you overcome all sorrows. Therefore, this study is important. What is this Kshetrajña? So Bhagavan says all those properties which are seen in the body is absent in the self. Continuing, verse number 7, page number 21. Acchedyoyamadahyoyam akledyo shoshya evacha nityas sarvagatasthānuh acaloyam sanātanah acchedyoyamadahyoyam Yes. Once again, a verse from the second chapter. Achedyu, achedyaha ayam. So here Bhagavan says, this consciousness, this self, is unaffected by the pañcha-mahābhūtas. So first one, achedyaha. Achedyaha means what? Correct absolute translation is uncuttable, which is, I don't know whether it is allowed in English. Uncuttable, achedyaha. Adahyaha. Adahyaha means unburnable. Akledyaha, unwettable. This English may appear strange, but it is the absolute translation, exact translation. We are not bothered about grammar now. Ashosyaha, undryable. So now what are these? These are nothing but the four elements. Achedyaha means what? That which cannot be cut. So what he said is, Prithvi, earth cannot affect it. Adahyaha, it cannot be burnt. That means fire cannot affect it. Akledyaha, it cannot be wetted. Means water has no effect. Ashosyaha means undryable, air has no effect. Now only one is left. What is that? Space. Space anyway cannot do anything. So the pañcha-mahābhūtas can't do anything. This self is unaffected by the pañcha-mahābhūtas, unlike this physical body. It is cuttable, wettable, dryable, everything. This physical body. So what is this self? Nityaha, eternal. Sarvagataha, all-pervading. Sthanuhu, stable. Achalaha, firm, unmoving. Sanatanaha, ever valid. Another meaning of Sanatana is Nitya Nutanaha, though old, still fresh. That's also a beautiful meaning. Things normally become stale, old, isn't it, with time. But this is something, even though it is the oldest, but still it is the freshest. Oldest yet absolutely fresh, new. That is the nature of this self. You just abide in the self for some few seconds, you are refreshed. Yes or no? Put it in a devotional language, you remember Bhagavan for few moments, you are refreshed. Why is this self able to refresh you? The self is able to refresh you because it is all the time fresh. Sanatana. Sanatana also means ever valid. It can never become obsolete, out of date, unlike the technology of modern times. After a few years, you have to throw away your television, your mobile, everything. Something new has come. As far as this is concerned, you can't upgrade this because this is the best. This is the ultimate. Sanatana also means it is ever valid. Valid means what? Like the values of life. Truth, honesty. It is ever valid, isn't it? There can never be a time when you will say, nowadays the truth has no value. No. The truth always is valued. So like the eternal values of life. So this is also eternal. Eternally valid. Eternally valuable. In the Satyuga also, people were trying to realize the same self. In Kali Yuga also, what are we doing? We are not trying to realize some different self. It is the same self. What self Bhagavan Shankaracharya realized, the very self is available even today for us to realize. There is no change. Times have changed, but the self has no change. So that is the meaning Sanatana. Then what? So these are all the explanation of the same self. Continuing, next verse, verse number 8. Avinashitu tad vidhi yena sarvamidam tatam vinashamavyayasyasya na kaschit kartumarhati avinashitu tad vidhi yena sarvamidam tatam. So you can see constantly it is from second chapter, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All these verses are from the second chapter. Avinashitu tad vidhi. Know that self to be avinashi, indestructible. Ena sarvamidam tatam, by which everything is pervaded. Everything is pervaded by this self. And this self is imperishable. Vinasham avyayasya asya. Of this self which is avyaya, imperishable. Vinasham, destruction. Nakaschit kartumarhati. Nobody can do. Nobody can destroy this self which is imperishable. So this self is imperishable and it pervades everything. Everything is pervaded by this self. So now the next verse is the highest standpoint of Vedanta. Till now there were two divisions. What are the two divisions? Kshetra and Kshetrajña. So naturally a question will come, Bhagwan, so the ultimate truth is Dvaita philosophy. Isn't it? Why Dvaita? One is Kshetra, Kshetrajña. Bhagwan says no. There is no Dvaita. There is only Advaita. So that, what you call, the highest philosophy of Vedanta is put in the next verse, which again comes in the second chapter. Nasato vidyate bhavaha na bhavo vidyate sataha ubhayorapi drashtontaha tvanayostattvadarshibhihi nasato vidyate bhavaha na bhavo vidyate sataha ubhayorapi tvanayostattvadarshibhihi. Yes, this is the ultimate statement of Vedanta. What is said? Asataha bhavaha na vidyate. Statement number 1. Asataha bhavaha na vidyate. Asataha, of the unreal. Asataha, of the unreal. Bhavaha, existence. Na vidyate, is not there. Of the unreal, existence is not there. Means what? Unreal doesn't exist. Statement number 1. Unreal doesn't exist. Asat doesn't exist. Then na abhavaha sataha vidyate. Sataha na abhavaha vidyate. Sataha, of the real, na abhavaha vidyate. There is no non-existence. Of the real, there is no non-existence. Means what? Real always exists. Unreal never exists. Real always exists. So now how many are there now? Advaita. Real always exists. Unreal never exists. Ubhayorapi drishtontaha tvanayo tattvadarshibhihi. Tattvadarshis have seen the antaha, the truth of both of these. Ubhayaha means both. What are these both? Kshetra and Kshetrajña. Of these two, the ultimate truth, antaha, who has seen? Tattvadarshis have seen. Tattvadarshi means what? Darshi, the one who has seen. Tattva, the essence. Tattvam is tattvam. Tvam means ness, N-E-S-S. Tat means what? That. So thatness is called tattvam. Thatness means what? The essence of that. The truth of that. The reality of that. That is called tattvam. Simple translation, tattva means reality. People who have seen the reality, they know the reality of these two. What is the reality? The real alone exists, the unreal never exists. Sat alone exists, Asat never exists. Now what is Sat and what is Asat? Kshetrajña is Sat, Kshetra is Asat. What is self? It is Sat, Chit, Anand. So the property of the self is Sat, existence. Property of the self is Sat. So anything other than the self should be Asat. The property of the self is Sat. So anything other than the self should be Asat. And what is said here? Asat has no existence at all. So what is existing? Self alone is existing. But I see the world. That is only an illusory projection borrowed from the existence of self. Just like in the dream. In the dream you see a world. But actually what exists? Only the seer of the dream exists. But the whole dream world is seen. Where does the dream world borrow its existence from? The dream world borrows its existence from the seer of the dream, isn't it? The observer of the dream. There also it is Advaita only. The seer alone is the truth. Everything that is seen is an illusion. It has no reality. It has no substance. So finally, this statement talks about Advaita. This Kshetrajña is Sat. This alone exists. Nothing else exists. Who knows it? Tattvadarshis knows it. Ramana Maharshi is telling his experience. Don't forget. When Bhagavan is telling Tattvadarshi has seen, Ramana Bhagavan has seen it. Therefore, he has taken this verse and put it here in his selection. Right? So Vedanta has got two levels of teaching. One is for the beginners. For the beginners we say there is a Kshetra, there is a Kshetrajña, and Kshetra is different from Kshetrajña and the properties and all those. They are all for the beginners. Because for them very clearly two things are seen. The seer and the seen. The knower and the known. Two things are seen. So therefore we have to start from the level of the beginner. So then we say Kshetra, Kshetrajña. But for the advanced, you cannot use Kshetra, Kshetrajña, because if you use this term, then there is a mistake which a sadhaka may commit. And what is a mistake? Kshetra is also real. Kshetrajña is also real. And they are independent. They have independent existence. This mistake we may commit. Are you able to understand? In the beginning, for a beginner, we say Nitya Vastu, Anitya Vastu. That's called as Viveka. Nitya Anitya Vastu Vivekaha. For the beginner. Nitya vastu means what? Something which is permanent, something which is impermanent. So we say the whole world is impermanent, body is impermanent, everything is impermanent. There is only one permanent thing. But then what is the problem with that term? The problem with Nitya Anitya is somewhere when you are using the term Anitya, somewhere you are implying that it enjoys reality, though impermanent reality. It exists, but only for some time. What does it mean? It enjoys independent existence. So there is a possibility that a seeker may commit this mistake. He may give an independent reality, independent existence to this world. So the final stage is to say that even this Anitya Vastu has no separate existence, it depends only because of the Nitya Vastu. What exists is only Nitya Vastu. So we don't use the term Nitya, we use Sat. Are you able to follow? We use the term Sat because when we say Nitya, it is not an correct definition for the self. Sat is the correct definition for the self. Sat means existence. Means what? Anything other than the self is non-existent. Anything other than the self cannot exist. Has no existence. Exactly like the dream. Anything other than me doesn't exist. Whatever I thought existed other than me in the dream, later on in the waking state I come to know nothing was real. Therefore this usage of the term Sat and Asat. Na sato vidyate bhavaha, na bhavo vidyate sataha. Now Bhagavan compares this consciousness, the self, with space. He compares this consciousness with light. He compares this consciousness with our sweet home. That comparisons we will see tomorrow. So then we will be completing this topic of self-knowledge. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayah Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukkha Bhave. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.